Here are the 5 contestants preparing for today's show. One of them will win a permanent role as an ESC host. The others will leave with nothing when voting on Arena or Pit. Hello and welcome to ESC. No, not an entertainment show competition. Not even the weakest link, but Extreme Scrutiny Club. Hi, I'm Oliver. I'm the Dork Knight. I can't do an Anne Robinson impression. And I am joined today by my usual co-hosts.
What up? It Reira. And I can't do an Anne Robinson impression either, but if I put glasses on, I kind of look like her sometimes.
Surprisingly, we have one of our other regular co-hosts.
Hello, I am Mitch, I'm New York, and I am applying for co-host role today. Thank you very much. I've got my
That's not how it works.
wait, I've got my my 10 great monologues about how great I am. You told me to bring them.
Oh, that was my bad. I thought it would be really funny.
Oh.
Yeah, so our wonderful orc here, if you heard last time's episode, our retirement special for the old chap, is leaving ESC to go on to greener pastures, yes, pun intended. And we have 5 people here fighting for their right to take his spot. So, shall we get them to introduce themselves, Oliver?
Let's go for it. Up first, we'll go in alphabetical order. He is known for being that other guy on the Robocast, as well as producing a Model Robot Wars tournament, and also, I should have scripted this. Sorry, Anderson.
We really should have.
To be fair, I don't even know what I do half the time, so don't worry about it. It's absolutely
You also
fine.
do the Robot Wars Guru stuff, which is great, because you now have a computer and we're getting uploads from your channel.
Yeah, actually, my computer actually works now. It's glorious. Yes, I'm Anderson9132, the Robot Wars Guru, and I'll be honest, I'm not here to win. I'm just here to talk robots and be stupid. So, usual, really.
Kind of guy.
Next up, alphabetically on the list, he is a moderator of Robot Wars Shuntposting and a previous guest of the show. It's Chris.
Hello, I don't think it's alphabetical order anymore, but I'm here, and I don't know why I'm here, but I'm here, and I'll have fun.
I'm just going down the list of usernames in the Discord, so I don't miss anyone out. So third, he is an RA2 gamer and just general all-round roboteering good guy. It's the Dominus Ignis.
Move out of the way, Grandpa. I'm taking your spot. Hello, everyone.
We promised we'd never have Sean on the podcast. We lied.
Can I just ask, which grandpa is he talking to here?
You fools, you couldn't keep me away forever. Things are... I let go of the A button and stopped my evil monologue.
Well done.
He is another previous guest and creator of Antweight Anarchy and owner of several heavyweight robots. It's Twopenny Milk.
Hello, everyone. I'm here to watch people fight each other, which is going to be interesting.
And lastly, it's that guy off the news.
I guess that must be me then. Also, the chat is now just typing A's constantly. Wow. Thanks for that.
It's the screaming wheel face inside.
All right, so I think probably run down what the format is for today, given that there are so many of us. We can't be doing the normal ESC format. So how is this working? We have a theme today, and that theme is underrated robots. I hope you guys have all prepared some bots.
They have each brought their own robot to the table, apart from one of them who's brought a series of robots, but we'll get into that. And they will have 2 minutes to make their argument. We will then have 5 minutes of discussion. Yes, we're actually timing the discussion for one, because at the end of that, after everyone has had their turn, they will be rating the robots 1st through 4th. So first place getting 4 points, last place getting 1 point. And then the robot with the highest amount of points at the end, collectively, will be going to the pit, as will 2nd place, whereas the other 3 will be joining Detonator in the flaming hole that is right next to me and is keeping my legs warm.
Hang on, the top 2 ones will be going to the pit, Reira.
Yes, they will. I have declared this. Everything is going to the pit now. I meant the arena. And in fact, we could, fuck it, we're doing it live.
I mean, what is the arena apart from a really big pit?
Hang on. No existential crises in our ESC, thank you. Damn it.
And if there happens to be a tie, we will be asking the chair or executive-in-chief, Mitchell, to make the decision for us. A lot of weight on your shoulders, buddy.
Oh, thanks. Pressure. I'm not very big anyway, and my shoulders are tiny. Thank you. I really needed that.
Yes, we are going back to timing the discussion like proper vanilla original flavor ESC, but you will get extra time once all the robots have been discussed if there's any additional points you want to make about any of the robots. So, having said all of that, who's feeling up for justifying why their underrated robot should go into the arena? Or the pit, if you believe Reira.
All robots go to the pit.
This is like
Right.
when you're in class and the teacher wants a volunteer. Nobody's stepping forward for this.
Anthony has been so brave as to step on up to the plate. So, Oliver, do you have your timepiece of eternities ready to go?
Indeed, ready to go. You have 2 minutes, Anthony. But before you start those 2 minutes, what bot have you bought?
I have brought the one, the only Eric to the table.
And your time starts now.
Well, we all know we've won. I've won this already now. I think, in all fairness, Eric, like with all its fights, like we know in the first time it appeared, it got knocked out by King B, but it came back for Series 4. Really, really good little dogged fights from it. And then it became to the Shuntposters, the meme lord himself, which I think, what do you call it, like if it came back for Series like 5 and continued, I think it would have been really, really good. Not saying it because I now own the machine. God, I've got so much repairs to do. But yeah, I think, what do you call it, Eric is a wonderful machine, and it is underrated. But I think I think I've made it my point. I don't really have much more to say about Eric. Like, not much to say.
Maybe that's why it's underrated.
Yes, I think so. I'm really terrified now what everyone's going to say about my poor little machine.
Well, we are going to put it on the timer, so there's 5 minutes, so keep it brief, but also remember that you're in competition with each other, so don't just compliment everything about every single robot. Your time starts now, guys.
Agree that Eric is an amazing robot, but my question is it really underrated? If everyone thinks it's great, who's underrating it?
That's very true. One problem I have with Eric is that its name is just really boring. Eric.
It
It's
also
so
It
nice.
also always sounds like there's a G at the end whenever the original Robot Wars announcer says it. It always sounds like Eric.
Eric, when you could be Eric, exclamation mark.
I'm down for that.
I see where Chris is coming from here. Everyone loves Eric. I've never heard anyone actually say anything bad about it. So can it really be considered underrated? I mean, it was literally considered a god at one point.
It is seeing a high rise of people calling it a dead meme at the moment.
Yeah, but that's the meme, not the robot itself.
Yeah, I'm going to say, in its defense, the meme isn't really so much about how good the robot itself is. I think, like, while that's got to partially to do with its reputation nowadays, I think it's unfair to base our thoughts of the robot on some shit jokes.
Okay, fair enough. So we'll clean slate then. Forget the meme. Eric was a very solid, competent machine for its time.
It's an interesting design. I think I'm right in saying, is it I don't want to get this wrong now. Is it a hydraulic flipper?
Yeah.
Yes.
So the only other one of these we've seen is Hydra. Or at least the only one I'm aware of. So quite interesting that it didn't catch on. It did manage to flip a few things, as I recall.
I can safely say that is a comparison I never thought I'd hear. Eric and Hydra.
That is the god and the demon now met each other.
Chris, you've been awfully quiet.
I was just letting them hash it out. Yeah, I think that Eric isn't underrated as a robot. I think everyone loves Eric. Even past the meme, we all have a fondness for the little green and orange machine. That almost
Do you
rhymed.
have anything to say to that?
Yeah, I think I'm gonna say I do agree with that. Like, I like Eric actually. Like, unironically, I think Eric is a neat little design for a robot. But in terms of if it's underrated, that's a harder thing to argue. Like, especially in like recent times, I think more people have come out in voicing their support for it.
Yeah. See, for me, a robot that's underrated is a robot that doesn't get mentioned a lot. And Eric is one that constantly pops up in conversation. And rightfully so. It had a good weapon for its time. It was a unique design. It looked cool. It was memorable. I can completely understand why it's, being passed around like the village bike, as they say, from where I am. But
Then has Anthony somewhat beaten the curve by choosing a popular-ish robot for when we have to rank the robots at the end?
I've made a paradox right here. I just want to see what happens.
People discuss the robot a lot, but they don't necessarily discuss its fights. How do we feel about Eric's fighting ability? You've got about a minute and a half left.
that is an interesting point, actually, Dork Knight, because the way I see it is Eric's best fights were actually the ones it lost. It sounds a bit backwards, I know, but his fight against King B in Series 3 was a great battle, in my opinion, and very good. And then, of course, you also have Splinter versus Eric, which was, again, a very good fight. But, yeah, being honest, when Eric was winning, it was probably at its least entertaining for me personally.
That's another really weird paradox. It's more entertaining when it's losing.
That's just how Eric works.
I just wanted to be a bit of a twat and do that.
I mean, the thing that ignited its legend was Eric versus Gabriel, where it just got smashed into tiny pieces.
To be honest, it is when you've got a really dominant robot like, say, Tombstone. It's very entertaining to see that lose more than just another Tombstone fight where it smashes things to bits that we've seen 100 times already.
That's a good point. Sometimes a robot can be too successful and it can come off as boring to some people, whereas a robot like Eric in the middle...
Fight Force.
Thank God, I was really hoping you were going to say Eric was the robot that's really successful then.
No, God, no, I'm not insane.
Call it whatever you want, but I'm not going to call it successful.
In Splinter was because the producers were afraid it was going to win the whole series, and they couldn't have Chaos 2 lose again, so they wanted Eric to.
They did the blendo and gave it a free win.
They knew that it would ooh to Hypnodisc. Come on, we all know this. Hypnodisc had no hope against Eric.
Predict the future.
Eric, they made Eric lose.
Final few seconds. Any final point on Eric?
Eric, good bro.
Eric, good.
That's by Eric.
Okay, so we're going to move on to our next competitor, and I think it's going to be fun to throw someone under the bus and throw someone into the ring.
Well, given that Jevon was saying the best way to get somebody to do a robot is to volunteer them.
God.
So,
What have you
Jevon, what did you do to break the rules?
I didn't break the rules, you didn't specify. I have brought to the discussion Tauron as a concept as opposed to as a robot.
Concept of Tauron sounds very philosophical.
It's my dissertation.
All right, well, you have just 2 minutes to summarize your dissertation, and your time starts now.
Okay, let's talk Tauron. I know what you're thinking, should only take a few seconds, and that's what I want you to think. Keep thinking that. It's for that reason that I class this as an underrated robot. In the case of Tauron, we have a bot that, in fairness, is a prototype to what we now know as a tried and tested design. The fact that Monsoon is the spawn of this proves that they were onto something from the off. Bearing in mind this was the Tom Brewster's first ever build, it's not bad going. Tauron's first appearance was lackluster, but its design is something that puts it above things like heavy metal that ultimately did better in the same heat. To my knowledge, a weapon of this style has never been done before. We didn't, however, get to see it in action as its removable link fell out. This, however, gave us the robbed Tauron 2. That's right, I said it, robbed. Firstly, the fact that they were a reserve in Series 10 is quite frankly rude. Happily, Triforce has never actually worked, so we're all good. In its first round, it dominated as the most aggressive and damaging robot. Iron Ore 6 were buggered due to the lack of active weapon, and the kegs, well, they're the kegs. The only thing that stopped Tauron in that fight was debris on the arena floor that, after cease was called, they drove off of, and if a double elimination had been called before Sir Killalot came in to split the bots up, then Tauron would have won that decision. The Androne fight was close. Tauron on damage, Androne on control maybe. Androne still swings the aggression, but damn, it's one hell of a fight. Then we have Tauron 3, aka Not Monsoon, which competed at 3 live events, one without the spinner functioning by choice, one where it reached the event final to face Ripper, who the team said it was the best fight that they had been in. That's the Ripper team there saying that. And the third in which they managed to retire Smidsy, taking out the drum entirely before removing a wheel from them. Tauron is a robot that isn't given the time it deserves, and that is why many underrate it. That's about all I have to say.
God damn.
Perfect. All right, let me get the timer set up for the discussion, and let's go.
Can I just start this topic off with, thankfully Triforce don't work. Can Jevon just win by default with zingers like that?
Yeah. It's true. It has never worked. They even brought it to a live event where it still didn't work.
Oh, God damn.
I just want to say, Jevon mentioned there that Tauron obviously eventually went on to become Monsoon that was really successful in Battle Robots, and I get that, but in my opinion, basing a robot success on one show compared to another is kind of pointless because different shows are, well, different. I mean, look at Kilohertz. It was great in BattleBots, it was crap in Robot Wars. Same with Run Amok. It was great in Robotica, crap in BattleBots. Not BattleBots, sorry, Robot Wars, and would have even crapper in BattleBots. So I don't really think that's a very concrete argument, Jevon, I'm afraid.
Good thing about me hacking the system a bit here is that Tauron 3 is basically Monsoon. They just reskinned it and took it to Extreme Robots, where it did the dirty on things like Smidsy.
And they changed the colours of the LEDs.
Would it be fair to say that Monsoon's pretty well rated?
Yeah, here's a counter argument. Like, if we're going to use like Tauron 3, given that Tauron 3 is essentially Monsoon, doesn't that put it in a weird grey area of underratedness? Like, if it's pretty much like getting to the point where they're almost the exact same robots, how underrated is it?
considering the robot is exactly the same as, is very much rated.
I would say if it follows the name of a machine that hasn't done all that well, let's face it, Tauron 1 went out in the melees of Series 9, and then Tauron 2 went out in the redemption round of Series... Did I say Series 2 or Series 9? I don't remember. But anyway, in that next one, then it's a team that often don't get the recognition they deserve. I have had many conversations with people said, I'm going to talk about Tauron. They said, oh, shouldn't take too long. And that is sort of my main point, is that people don't give Tauron the time it deserves.
Wait, are you saying people don't give Tauron the time it deserves, or the team the time it deserves? Because you mentioned two different things there.
Oh, Chris is taking
I'd
things apart.
I'd say the team.
Damn, this paradox is good. Keep fighting. I'm enjoying this.
I assume he means like the robot as the predecessor to Monsoon, essentially.
This is the real-life CAD to the well-known round of 16 competitor.
Let's focus on like Tauron 1 and 2 and the original concept, because Jevon does have a point in that they aren't brought up that often in terms of discussing the Robot Wars reboot.
Also, Tauron 1 was seaworthy.
Yeah, it was, but also, if you look at it side on, it does actually look like a bull, which is what I think they were going for. And as I said, it is Tom Brewster's first build. It's an interesting design that it is invertible and the weapon can be spun the other way. Yes, we didn't actually see that work, but the concept was there, and I would have it easily on a list of revolutionary robots that changed the way we thought about how things could work.
That's a fair argument.
I'm going to point out, though, that when they entered Monsoon into BattleBots, I think they stopped trying to do the whole reverse weapon thing because it just took too long to.
That's
spin
why
the
they
weapon
have the
out
thing
back up.
flip over instead.
It is interesting that they said then on the Behind the Bots podcast that they finally got it working for the next season that's coming up. They have been trying to, but they just haven't managed it yet.
Damn, Jevon bringing in sources.
Jevon almost has a counterpoint to every argument we have. He's won this already.
Listen now.
All right, we're into the final minute. Any other points on why this robot
I'd say
Okay.
is rated
Tauron is
poorly or
Monsoon,
rated
and
well?
Monsoon is well
Here's the-
rated. Then Tauron, by extension, the concept of Tauron, which lies in Monsoon, is well rated. I'd say that much.
I agree. Yeah, I agree.
If the
But
concept
would
of
you
Tauron
say
what
that
you're going
Tauron
on-
is a good robot? Probably not. Would you say Monsoon is? Yes.
Yeah, but that's just it, then, Devon. If we're not saying that, if we're going to say Tauron isn't a good robot, then it's not a good robot.
Yeah, but because Jevon, like, if we look at the first one, which I know first build, I'm not going to take away. For a first build, it's not bad, but it really wasn't that good in its season. And it's like rating a robot is kind of like it's something that depends on the performance. Like if a robot is quite good and just doesn't get thought about much, then yeah, it's underrated. If a robot does terribly and nobody talks about it, is it underrated?
I mean, yes, Detonator and Napalm.
Can
Thank
I
you
throw
so
my-
much for coming to my
Those
talk.
two.
By
Also,
pure
can-
numbers, those would be overrated.
Can I
Put my 2 cents in here for a second?
Yeah, go on.
Final point coming from Anthony.
As a person who's seen Tauron fight in Robot Wars, at the battle itself with Tauron and Arnor, like I have pictures of how powerful Tauron's weapon was, and to be fair, I think like if we had another season and Tauron came back, I'd say we would have Monsoon levels of damage. But like I think it's a pretty good machine, and Tom really changed it from the first version to the next version. It was constant evolution with him, and I think that like he really had it on the head at what he wanted to do. That and the fact that like just a little more like I think is pretty cool is we got to see Tornado and Tauron fight each other, which was I thought was pretty cool. Like the old generation and the new generation fighting one another. So I think it's pretty good. I think like the first time, not so much. Second time, Jesus, like seeing those fights in person really blew my mind. So I think it's underrated, but I do think that it deserves a bit more recognition.
It's certainly not one that's talked about much when you discuss the robots of the Robot Wars reboot. But that is time. We're going to have to wrap up for Tauron there. Reira, do you want to volunteer someone?
Ooh, who should I be mean to? Hey, Sean, you know how you keep saying that you wanted to be on our podcast? Well, congrats, you are now. Go.
Right, Prince of Darkness. Okay, out of the way, everyone. Is the count timer ready?
Time is ready. Your time starts now.
Okay, so this is a robot. Do I explain why it's underrated? It's a robot that not even the hosts would give a break to, and I'm going to explain why that is a load of bull. Now, when it comes to Prince of Darkness, we got to think back to what Robot was used to be like. It wasn't just a pure battling spectacle. It had several elements. It had like the gauntlet. It would have like a little mini game. Like a robot had to be a jack of all trades. It had to be capable of many many things. And back in Series 1, most robots weren't even capable of doing any of those one things. So a robot like Prince of Darkness, which managed to beat the gauntlet, get pushed back by a house robot, and then get back to the finish line again. And then in the soccer game or collecting balls game, it got 6 balls. Like, Prince of Darkness proved itself to be a very capable robot in a really underwhelming series. Like, it did fall to Tracy, but keep in mind, Tracy would be like one of the grand finalists. And then you realize, like, Prince of Darkness in Series 1 was a pretty good robot, yet it was dissed on for being ugly, which, have you seen some of the robots that season? And it's just like, when it's as good as it was, and visually, to be honest, not great, but kind of on par with some of the other robots, I just think it doesn't get a fair shake half of the time. And that's all I got to say about Prince of Darkness. Have at it.
Alrighty, you have about 20 seconds if you've got any final points.
People who like Prince of Darkness have big PP.
It has its name written on its front in a Sharpie so that it doesn't forget what its name is.
Prince of Darkness is my favourite robot.
It forgot what its name was in the first round, and then they had to paint it on just to make sure.
No, it looks like it's been Sharpied on, honestly. Have you
There's
seen
a robot called
pictures?
Uglybot.
It went into the arena with wet paint.
Can I put my tinfoil hat on here for Princess Darkness?
5 minutes starting now.
Conspiracy theory. I think there's a lot of stuff behind the scenes that went wrong, because, like, you had Clarkson just from immediately just go, it's terrible, get rid of this. So I think that the team themselves maybe started like going, we're gonna win, we're gonna be amazing. But I like it because it moved, and that's always going to be a point for me. I always give a robot the point for moving. But even in the fight with Tracy, like, it was still going. Like, I know the wheels were deflated and stuff, but I think, yeah, I actually like it. I don't have anything bad to say about it. I do feel it's underrated. I think even Robot Wars themselves were like, we don't like this, we hate this, unless they had a different design that they liked and then rolled up with this one. But it was a very, very durable machine. It won the soccer. It done the gauntlet perfectly, even though Matilda tried to, destroy them. And that was a really good fight with what they could do with Tracy, with the technology they had, but it still held up. And I think I agree. Yeah, it's an underrated machine. That's all I have to say about that.
I just want to say, yeah, I agree as well, to be honest. First of all, it was the snooker. Get cultured, guys. Just saying. Second of all, the thing about Prince of Darkness is it's very much a robot that's built for the trials, not the battle. I think that's the problem with Prince of Darkness, and that's why a lot of people don't remember it. But when you're looking back at Series 1, it was the first series. Roboteering had not really happened at this point, to the point where when robots were turning up, they were actually having the BBC production crews help them build them, because they had no clue what they were doing, like, at all. And Prince of Darkness could actually pull a car, believe it or not, despite looking like a soapbox on a pair of wheelchair wheels. So a robot with that much power and driving precision, it was capable. It was one of the very few robots to come first in both the Gauntlet and Trials in its heat. Yeah, it didn't win its fight, but in all fairness, it was against a robot with some great big spikes and had exposed wheels. It was never going to win that fight. I think had it gone up against Blob or Scarab, it would have won and made it final, in all honesty. And I agree. I think that it is a very underrated machine, especially for its time.
Am I right in thinking that Prince of Darkness was one of the only robots to be defeated by static spikes on a robot?
Yes.
I don't know. I mean, when Frenzy lost to Detonator, would you call the ramming pole a static spike? I mean, that counts, right? Right?
I mean, I'm sure it moved a lot during the fight. It's just not by its own accord.
I'm actually going to break my silence here because I've just been listening, but I've got to say, Prince of Darkness was fighting the odds from the very start of that heat. Jeremy Clarkson was shitting on it, Philippa Forrester was shitting on it, and it proved its performance despite not looking too good. And then they went, you know what, sod it, we're going to redesign our robot, we're going to recolour it, we're going to paint it up, and they made it look a lot better. And I feel, massive props to them for fighting it from the start. I don't know, I feel like Prince of Darkness needs a bit more credit where it's due. And the fact it was a middleweight fighting Tracy, which was technically a heavyweight, I mean, okay, it might have done decently, but it was unfair. Back then, Series 1, it was basically every weight against whatever. So,
Woodrow, you've been quite quiet.
Sorry, I forgot to change the key to shift, so I didn't keep pressing A. Yeah, Prince of Darkness, I think it's been said, but yeah, it's a bit unfair to say that a robot like this is bad looking. There were definitely worse. And Jeremy Clarkson I think wasn't a very good fit for Robot Wars. I don't think it's at all what he expected. So to base its entire being on what it looks like, you've heard the term "don't judge a book by its cover," and Prince of Darkness, hell, proved a lot of people wrong that it could actually perform despite its looks.
Sorry, I just want to say one comment. This is exactly why I brought Prince of Darkness, because you look at it and you think, oh, it's terrible. But I knew once the arguments were made, it's like, it's just a good robot.
I should add to it that I've not heard of this robot until you brought it up, and I will probably forget about it as soon as we finish, but that's just me.
I love the fact that in this heat that we even got like a curse word in the snooker part where like Tracy's the driver calls Tracy a bitch.
Classic. And this robot's really hard to fight against. It is sort of underrated in the fact that it was a pretty good robot for the time, but just nobody remembers it for it being ugly.
I think the way that Robot Wars presents certain robots and events, and the way that sometimes Jonathan Pierce can narrate the way things happen, can stick in the mind of the audience. So that they tend to look at the way that the show is interpreting it rather than objectively what's going on, which means I think some robots like Prince of Darkness can sort of fall by the wayside.
And let's not forget also it did better than Detonator.
Oh, damn, Anderson. Oh.
There's no better way to ruin my chances than that.
For its own chance, to be honest, we're gonna hate
You know
it.
you're supposed to be being nice to us to try and get this position, right?
No one said anything about
And
being
with
nice.
that, we
Every
will
time I
wrap
listen
up
to you,
for 5 minutes.
I do have one last point I do want to make as well, and that's the fact that I'm actually genuinely surprised at the positivity for Prince of Darkness, and I fear that we may well have found a new channel mascot to go alongside Mastic.
Yes, make it so.
You kept me away for so long, but now now I could end
Charlie,
up
put it in the pack.
joining the show.
Don't go too far.
Evil maniac laugh.
All right, we have 2 more left to go.
Mitch, choose the challenger, Mitch.
You know what? I'm gonna leave, I think, the most controversial one for last, in my humble opinion. Chris, you're up next. What are you bringing?
Hello, I am bringing another Series 1 robot, matter of fact, Eubank the Mouse.
You have 2 minutes. Your time starts now.
Now, the first thing anyone will tell you when you mention Eubank the Mouse is, oh, it was a house robot. It doesn't count as a proper robot, but that'll be important later. Just look at the thing. It's super cute. It's got the boxing arms. It's got the glasses. It's got so much character. And I think it could have done better in the Robot Wars universe, because while it is, yes, it is a house robot, and so therefore it should have been embraced as a house robot. Because if you think about it, what other house robot do we have that sort of fits a similar theme? Yeah, that's right. Cassius Chrome. Eubank the Mouse should have been Cassius Chrome. It would have been so much better. You could have had merchandise for it. You could have had all sorts. You could have had kids snuggling their Eubank the Mouse pillows. There was so much potential in Eubank the Mouse, but it was snubbed on the fact that it was pretending to be a competitor.
Given that we've already sent Cassius Chrome to the pit, you're walking a very fine line here, Chris. Go on.
It would have done better as Cassius Chrome than Cassius Chrome did. It would have done way better because it's a mouse.
You've got a minute left.
I do believe the term is stock robot for the ones that Derek Foxwell built to replace the lack of competitors, but I like the idea of it being a house robot.
It should have been a house robot.
Fun fact, it was rumoured to be a house robot in Series 2, but then it wasn't used as one.
Underrated. If they'd gone with that, it would have been so much better.
All right, let's open it up. Oliver, put those 5 minutes on the clock.
Flashback to a few episodes ago, Eubank was also one of the robots that fought the Master and La Machine when they came over to pitch original Robot Wars to the BBC.
Oh, damn, I did not know that.
It's been there since the very start, but nobody remembers it.
All right, 5 minutes start now, everyone.
I'm actually glad that, Chris, that you have talked about this, because to me, I think this is like a really good machine. It's like, it is forgettable, which is a sad thing to see robot fans do this, but like, you have to think about it. This is the pioneer robot that fought the La Machine and the Master in the pilot episode. That's to say that was the pilot episode of Robot Wars. It also had more history in with Robot Wars. It always was a display robot for, like, it was in at Extreme 1 and 2. It also done charity events, like that's not forget it fought Cassius, which is really cool, and Chaos. And I think it's like the forgotten mascot of Robot Wars, and I really love it. And I'm happy that you did bring this robot up, because for me, I think if we didn't have the likes of stuff, Grunt and the Mouse and WYSIWYG and stuff like that fighting in the pilot episode, we wouldn't have Robot Wars what we have today. We wouldn't be discussing this without this this robot. So that's my little 2 cents for it. But yeah, everyone else.
Sean,
Okay.
Get the fuck out of my room! I'm playing Minecraft.
a wonderful
Okay.
reference for a wonderful robot.
Now, on a serious note, for me, on the face of the loner bots, I think Eubank is probably my favorite loner bot. Like, is it effective? No, definitely not. But when I look at the loner bots, it's like I see some crap robots. I see stuff like Cadena Machina, which was at least semi-effective, but was honestly kind of boring. Then you see Eubank, and it's like, it's not effective. It knows it's not effective, so it's going to bring a little character to the arena. And I think Mitch, as a person who has the finer taste yourself, I think you know how nice a good old face on a robot is.
You say this. I don't know how to break this. I'm not the biggest fan of you, Bank the Mouse. I've got to be honest.
Mitch, you're supposed to be my friend. Mitch, you're supposed to be my friend.
No,
Finish him!
listen, I get it. It's a stock robot, but I don't know. It has a look. It has an iconic look, and I was happy to see that Eubank was in every. I think it was in every series of Robot Wars in the pits at some point. So if it wasn't on the cameras, people could see it. And I think it was a house robot for the events where the Americans came over. This was before Robot
It's
Wars.
called the House Mouse.
Yes, that was it. So it's got credit to it, but I don't know. I see it talked about a lot, and people are like, "Oh yeah, you burnt the mouse." I'm just like,
Usually when they talk about it, they're being very dismissive, though, aren't they?
What you're arguing essentially, Mitch, at the end there is, could Eubank be overrated?
Oh, okay.
Right, okay. I didn't say this earlier about Eric, but I feel it's this kind of same thing. It has the meme potential, and then because of how much it's kind of memed, it's kind of like people look at it and go, "Oh god, that robot," and
Something Big Chungus, something.
then it kind of loses love for the robot, even though the meme quality of a robot and the actual robot itself, I think, should be separated. It's not fair to judge a robot just on the memes. It should be on what the robot is itself.
But did Eric beat La Machine? Fight the La Machine? I shouldn't say beat.
Good point. I'll give you that.
Did Eric fight the Master?
Okay, you got another one there.
You know what? If Mitch is right and it was in the pits for every series, why didn't they bring it out for the celebrity special in the Fourth Wars with Chris Eubank?
I thought for a second there you were going to say, why didn't it come out for Series 7? And all I pictured was Eubank taking on Typhoon 2.
Oh no!
Ooh.
Yes.
Rip the mouse a new one.
Yeah. Just so you also fun fact about you and the mouse. Steve Dove, who entered with Challenger in Series 2 and 3, was actually the guy who drove the robot in Series 1.
It was
Believe it or not.
20 kilos. Let's not forget, it was a lightweight robot against heavyweights, middleweights. I don't know. Nobody cares in Series 1, as said before. But I think that's probably why it wasn't brought back, because it would just be thrown. It would just be gone.
I'd like to point a little bit of detail that I noticed. It's a middleweight robot. What weight did Chris Eubank fight in? He was a middleweight fighter.
Ah, clever.
Why is 20 kilos a middleweight, though? That makes little sense.
For the middleweights, it's halfway between 0 and 40. Those are the important ones.
I think anything that wasn't heavy enough to be a proper heavyweight in the show was just called a middleweight, no matter how heavy it was.
I see.
I have bought this 1.5k BT weight. That is now a middleweight. Congrats.
Or this brick with a wheel attached. It's now a middleweight.
That isn't true though, because Wedgehog was 23 kilos.
So
What does I want to say? And it was called a
basically,
lightweight.
He compared Eubank to Cassius Chrome, and this is just a random stupid thing, right? I think if you had Cassius Chrome's build, like the gloves and everything like that, but made it more Eubank the Mouse, because it had the punching gloves, and well, they weren't even punching gloves; they were just floppy flails. No, that
More of
kind
a
thing.
character.
Yeah, I feel in a really weird way, a cybernetic, dark cybernetic mouse with boxing gloves that work like Cassius Chrome. That would be a really interesting idea for a house robot. Why didn't they do that? That would have made Cassius Chrome better.
Any
Yeah, but-
changes to Cassius Chrome is going to make it better. Let's be honest.
Just like make it better.
All the ESC audience to earmark this moment, because in 10 years' time, when Mitch is entering BattleBots with that exact design, you can say you heard when he invented it.
Invented everything.
All right, we're going to wrap it up here. Any final points from anybody before we move on?
Boxing gloves are cool on robots. I can say that because I made a robot in Robot Arena 2 that boxes, so I advocate for Eubank the mouse.
I want to make the wonderful point that Mum said it's my turn on the Xbox.
Funnily enough, that's actually how I realized I could do that meme.
Insert the robot Xbox into the conversation right here.
You can fucking have it, Eubank. You can have that Xbox.
Oh god, my turn, isn't it? I don't like being put on the spot. Okay, my robot is suicidal tendencies. I love suicidal tendencies. I'm ready to go when you guys say I am.
Sorry, I'm forgetting we don't have. We've got push to talk on. The time starts now.
Hello, right, so, yeah, suicidal tendencies. Now, suicidal tendencies appeared in 3 series of Robot Wars. They were Series 3, Series 4, and Series 5, respectively. In 2 of those series, it made a heat final. In one of them, it lost in the first round, but only because it had to pull out, which is a bit of a shame. In Series 3, it wasn't the best robot in the world, but it by certain means was no means the worst either. It was a pretty good build for a first build, especially in Series 3. And they really did build it to sort of... Because obviously a lot of Series 3 robots were still built with the idea of the Gauntlet in Trials. So, of course, they had a weapon on it, and they had tracks, and it was invertible, and it looked like it could do really well in the Gauntlet and in the Trial situation as well. Also, its fights with Razor Blade in Series 3 is one of my favourite fights of Series 3 just because of how silly it was and how everything kept going wrong. It was really, really funny. Series 4, however, is where suicidal tendencies really, really started to come out of its shell, in my opinion. Gone was the, the nice red and yellow look, and instead they came back with like a really grungy, dirty look, which I absolutely love. Anybody who knows my browser history knows that. It had a great weapon synergy, in my opinion. I love the fact that it had lifting forks with a little pickaxe. I thought that really worked well. And it was very effective. Also, little fun fact, outside of Robot Wars, it was able to beat Tornado in a live event. So they would have probably beaten Tornado had they have beaten Wheelie Big Cheese, which everybody thinks they should have done. I agree that they were immobile too long, but you have to admit it dominated Wheelie Big Cheese in that fight up until the point of his track dying. And even then, Wheelie Big Cheese couldn't finish them off. And yeah, it would have been a top 8 robot in Series 4. So I think that's very, very important to note as well. And then in Series 5 and Extreme 1, it came back with the Crusher. I know it was a really weak Crusher, but I think it was more of a case of it was meant to grab robots and drive them around rather than crush into them like Tiberius and Razor, etc., etc. Don't forget also in the Tag Team Terror, it was capable of beating Thermidor, Jevon, and it was also capable of making it to the final, where it gave Pussycat one of the toughest fights it's ever had. And I personally think they were robbed in that fight. I think that the Seal Avenger and Suicidal Tendency should have won it. So in my opinion, it is a deserving champion of Robot Wars as well. It also looked very sleek, this series. And like I said, unfortunately, it had to pull out very, very early, which is a shame. The reason why I think it's underrated is because no one ever mentions it, in all honesty. It was an effective machine. It did really well in every series it competed in, apart from Series 5, because of unfortunate success problems. But apart from that, yeah, I thought it was a really good robot, and I don't think it deserves... I think it deserves more acknowledgement, is what I'm trying to say.
I'm going to bring up 2 points that I think might be worthy of discussion going into the 5-minute time period. Firstly, it's BattleBot's career, where it had faced robots like Biohazard, and so apparently they were going to rebuild it for the potential 2004 Series 8, which never happened. And the linear actuator for the Crusher ended up on Coyote in Series 9 and 10.
I found this on the Wikipedia page, which is well known as the truthest thing known to man. Julie Reed frequently referred to suicidal tendencies as the best tracked robot in Robot Wars. If it was truly the best, if people were saying it was the best tracked robot, surely it can't be underrated. If it was the best tracked robot.
101. 101.
I'm going to bring up Mortis.
In all fairness, she was completely wrong. She was completely wrong. I mean, Plunger had better success rate. Also, one person says that, and all of a sudden that means it can't be underrated. What?
I would also argue it had 2 more bits of merchandise than Thermidor 2 did, which is just a sin. Also, fuck you with your Thermidor 2 put downs.
Yeah, it had a lot of merch, but it had a lot of support from the show. So no point you can't say it's underrated.
Okay, I want to step in and say there's no need for the Thermidor 2 put downs. Its reboot series did that enough. I say that and I love Thermidor. I just needed to do that.
Oh, god damn.
All right, I do want to say, Anderson, before this recording started, when I saw this version, I was thinking, how the hell is he going to justify this? Because I was like, I don't remember its performance back then with this version, but I thought it looked ugly, to be honest. And I was thinking, how's he going to justify this? You have done, in my opinion, such an excellent job of selling this to me.
Well, you know, I was able to make someone think they could marry me as well, so anything's possible.
I would say you've done the opposite for me. I was
Ooh.
really behind this, and then you've brought up several points that now I'm thinking, can it truly be underrated? I mean, you've said that everybody thought it was beating Really Big Cheese, therefore not underrated. Also, as I said about the merchandise, it's had more merchandise than several other. Had more merchandise than Beer Moth, let's face it.
Merchant doesn't make an effective
Yeah.
bot though, because as much as I love the bot to pieces,
The way I look at it, right, an underrated robot is a robot that no one talks about. Just because a robot has lots of merch about it doesn't mean everybody spoke about it.
Okay, so the problem here is, Anderson, with your definition about like a robot that not many people talk about, the Series 4 version I get, but Suicidal Tendencies is, I'd say, not really that obscure a robot in general.
I've never heard anyone speak about it. Never once. I have a lot of friends
pretty
in this
well
community.
known.
Well, I say friends, you know, the people I talk to every now and then. You know, in this community, and like we always mention good robots and all that, and it never comes up. Like no one ever mentions it at all. I've never heard anybody mention Suicidal Tendencies once, apart from if I bring it up. In Heat Finals, it also came second in the Tag Team Tower in Extreme 1. In fact, it lost in the third round of every tournament it competed in apart from Series 5. Which, to be fair, had it not have broken down, it would have beaten Destructible and then would have lost to Razor, so it would have happened again there as well.
I suppose if you look at their record, it is interesting that people don't talk about it. As Anderson said, did you say it was 2 Heat Finals, I think you
I'm
said?
going to back up Anderson there, but it doesn't seem to be discussed as one of the classics that often. But I think the whole point of this theme is getting down and looking at the careers of robots that aren't talked about so much. I think Suicidal Tendencies is a good fit for that. It's just a question as to
I'm not
whether or not
sure
we think
about
it
that.
deserves more recognition.
I know that's a very hot take, but I'm thinking back to Razor versus Agrabot with the whole Razor had a really hard time like getting that Crusher and Agrabot, and Destructor Bubble was just a bloody big ball. And Suicidal Tendencies Crusher, like you said, was nowhere near as strong. I mean, okay, it could probably drive it around and that's how it'd win, but I don't know.
So I think it would be able to grab a hold of the axe weapon and Disruptor Bubbles because Disruptor Bubble had an axe at the time.
That would have been the
okay, so are we
high-loader one.
winding down discussion and moving on to the all-important pens to paper scoring phase?
Suicidal Tendencies superior.
We are going to open up everything. No time, nothing. If you have any more points you want to make on any of the robots we've discussed, that being Suicidal Tendencies, Eubank the Mouse, Prince of Darkness, Tauron, or Eric, about why they should or should not deserve more recognition, now is the time.
I'm going to shoot down Tauron. One of the arguments Jevon made, and I wanted to say this, but I ran out of time, wasn't able to say it. He says that for a first build, it was really, really, you know, it was an interesting concept and all that. The way I look at it is Concussion was also a first-time build, and that shagged it in like less than 10 seconds. So that's my personal view anyway. I think the idea, it's like Monsoon and Tauron are separate entities in my opinion. One's competed on BattleBots, one competed on Robot Wars. When you're looking at the Tauron that competed on Robot Wars, it is completely different to Monsoon that competed on BattleBots. It had its chance to prove itself. And don't get me wrong, Tom's a lovely guy. I love Tom, and I hope if he's listening to this, he doesn't think I hate it or hate him, because I don't. I just don't think it's underrated. It had its chance to prove itself twice, and I can completely understand why nobody remembers it fondly.
Okay, Chris?
I would like to countermand that argument by saying that what Jevon was defending was the concept of Tauron, which definitely does encompass Monsoon. I'd say Monsoon, as the apex of the concept of Tauron, is very well known, very well respected, and therefore the concept of Tauron itself isn't underrated by any means.
For me, like my concept on a lot of these robots has changed quite a bit through these arguments. I want to say I love all these robots, even Thermidor 2, which I just helped bury 6 feet under. And it's I don't think I have a specific point to say. I just think listening to these discussions has changed my perspective on a bunch of these things, really. And I want to say, good job, everyone. Golf clap. That's for you to find out when the scores come.
Anthony?
I don't have to big up Eric. I think I picked the wrong one to bring to this. But the one that I want to big up is the mouse, because I still strongly believe that if it wasn't for the stock robots fighting in the pilot episode, we wouldn't have what Robot Wars what we have today. So I think like it needs a bit more credit. That's basically all I have to say about that.
Okay, and Jevon?
Tauron is the only one out of these robots that I would trust to survive in the ocean.
Okay, so now Each of you has a 4 points, a 3 points, a 2 points, and a 1 point to award to each of the robots you did not bring. We're going to give you a few minutes to discuss and work this out and rank your robots 1 to 4. Bearing in mind that afterwards, the highest scoring 2 robots will go to the arena, not the pit. I said it right this time. Fuck off. And the 3 lowest scoring robots will join such wonderful things as, well, not Warhog anymore, because Warhog's in a good place now. Okay, we're going to give you 2 minutes. It will join the stag and where the stag belongs.
Absolutely.
Okay, so we're going to give you, let's say,
Same.
3 minutes,
I
2
ranked.
minutes?
I ranked it. Like
Yeah, I'm
I
ready.
ranked them all while we were doing our final points.
I don't need 2 minutes personally.
Wow, everyone's already...
Yep.
I'm ready now, so
I mean, if we
Join the stag, and I'm still salty.
I mean,
Mark
I'd
Ross,
only
eh?
need like 10 seconds.
did you say ranking or something else there?
Yeah. Let's go with that. Let's go with that.
to rank, right?
Edit it out
You
anyway,
take
so-
10 seconds to rank.
Woodruff going first.
Thank God, because I'm useless at Discord. Okay, so I'm giving 4 points to Suicidal Tendencies. I think Anderson made some excellent points that nobody does talk about it, and it deserves a lot more praise. I've given 3 points to Prince of Darkness. Sorry, suspense there. I had to look at my notes again. Yeah, I agree that though looks aren't great on it, it proved everyone wrong. Then 3-point note. 2 points to Eubank the Mouse because it helped to bring Robot Wars to the UK, I suppose. And 1 point to Eric because it's loved by all as a meme god. And yeah, sorry, Ant.
Okay, I decided to give 4 points to Tauron because I feel like given what
thank God.
Monsoon, the successor, would end up becoming, I feel there was a fair argument that Tauron kind of gets unfairly not talked about a lot. Suicidal Tendencies gets 3 points from me because for something that I thought there's no way it's going to be able to be argued for so well. I really thought, yeah, no, that's actually a really good point. Like Suicidal Tendencies might not be the best, but for what it is, it's pretty underrated, I'd say. That 2 points I'd give to Eubank the Mouse for the reason that I've been talked about before. It's a fun robot that I think is memorable, but just not talked about very much. Again, underrated. And 1 point and a pint of Guinness I give to Eric because I love Eric to bits, but like everyone else has said, Eric isn't really that underrated anymore. Like if this was an argument from like 5+ years ago, yeah, but nowadays Eric is, I'd say, pretty well loved.
Okay, next on the table. Go ahead, Chris.
Okay, so I gave Prince of Darkness 4 points because I really couldn't find much to defend against why it's so underrated. Despite its looks, it did surprisingly well in its era. Again, Suicidal Tendencies 3 points because I do agree it doesn't get talked about despite having a lot of pedigree under its belt and having a lot of good fights under its belt. It just doesn't get the airtime it deserves. For 2 points, I've given Eric because, while it is memed about a lot, people don't really talk too much about the fights. And I've given 1 point to the concept of Tauron because Monsoon is very well thought of.
Okay, Anderson, go for it.
Okay, so I gave Prince of Darkness the four beans because I love Prince of Darkness. I fell in love with it from day one. As Sean, I think it was Sean said earlier, they kept going despite the criticism thrown at them. They even tried updating it as they went along. It was such an effective build for Series 1. And like I said, had it gone up against the Blob or Scout, I actually personally think it would have gone through to the Heat final. So we've got that little addition there. So I think it's a very good machine. Eubank, I've given 3 because, yeah, to be fair, legendary, technically. It was one of the first of the UK, so I have to give 3 points to Eubank, but I can understand why it's not as well remembered because it was a stock robot. Eric, I've given 2 because it's not really underrated. I'm with Sean. I think a lot of people love Eric these days. And everybody always mentions it. I wouldn't say it's underrated. And I'm sorry, Jevon, but the concept of Tauron, for me, again, it's not very underrated. Yes, Monsoon went on to have great success, but like I said, and I think as Chris said as well, technically then that means it's not underrated because everybody everybody goes on about how amazing Monsoon is. So technically, surely they're going on about how amazing the concept of Tauron is. So I do agree with Chris on that one.
Okay, Anthony.
I have the For Princess Darkness, I've given it 4 points because, as I said, it worked, and there's not much. Well, apart from Robot Wars, like crapping on it, it was still a really good machine. I've given 3 points to Suicidal Tendencies because I love the machine as well. It's shiny, it moved, and it did really well. I give 2 points to the mouse because it's a really good, as I said, it's to me, I personally believe it's pioneer of what Robot Wars would have been. I probably messed up the points now, did I?
You've got 1 point to give out now.
1 point I would give to Tauron. I seen it fight Tauron 2. I seen fight in at Robot Wars, and I thought it was really good. The first Tauron didn't do too well, but it's nice to see that Tom went off and improved it and made has got better success with Monsoon. And well, Eric really picked the wrong robot to go into this, but hey, that's me. It moved. I'm happy with that.
So going to the pit with 6 points is Eric.
Maybe
Joining him
boy.
in the pit with 7 points is Tauron. I feel bad that we've put Tauron in the pit. And heartbreaking as it is for me, joining them as the trifecta for the pit with 9 points is Eubank the Mouse, meaning that Suicidal Tendencies on 13 points and
Wait, I
Prince of
thought-
Darkness with 15
I thought it was 2 and
goes
2.
to the
Oh, wait,
arena.
yes.
That's
Thank you
controversial.
to all of those of you who voted. Your bribes
Well
will be
done,
coming
lad.
in the
Well
post
done.
later today.
Royal wave.
Hey, well done. It's
Sure.
very close.
You're going to send them.
Prince of Darkness got 15 points.
Congratulations to Anderson and especially to Sean for winning today's episode. I'm gonna put out a bit of a reminder to our audience. This does not mean that Sean is confirmed as the new host of ESC. The point of today really was just to get a feel for how each of these potential new hosts would do in an ESC format. And also, we want to hear from you. What have you thought of these guys today? And who would you like to see joining us more on a regular basis? We love them all, but we'd love to hear from you and your feedback. And yeah, just leave us some comments or some Facebook messages, and that will
If you say
really
that
help
they should
us make
bring
a
me to
decision.
ESC, you will get clearer skin.
An oddly specific positive vibe. But yeah, to sign off for tonight, again, thank you so much, guys, for joining us. And again, thank you, Mitch, for all that you've done for ESC before this. Again, what I'm going to do is I'm just going to reiterate the point that none of this has a guaranteed effect on who we will be pulling in to be the new host to replace Mitch. We're going to take some time to discuss this, both me and Oliver and Mitch himself as well. And again, we're going to take what you say into account.
The points
And
don't matter.
soon you will have your first episode with your new host. And I just want to thank all of our potential candidates. So as we always do with our guests, where can we find you? So Anderson.
Usually on other people's channels, if I'm honest. Being okay, yeah. So obviously, I'm on the Robocast, so Sam864 channel, the Robocast. I'm a regular guest on there. Future episodes of ESC, obviously, because I probably won. No, I didn't really. And of course, my own channel, Anderson9132. I have 2 main series on there. One is the Robot Wars Guru, where I take a look at things from Robot Wars past and present and discuss them in usually very ranty, angry, sweary, drunken rage ways. And the other one is RWA, which is a family Robot Wars series where basically a grown man plays with Robot Wars toys and puts it on the internet because somehow managed to get married. So yeah, that's everything basically for me.
Chris, where can people find you?
You can find me anywhere on the internet at NXMEE. You can't pronounce it, but I'm saying it anyway. But yeah, I'm pretty much everyone in the internet. You can find me on Shuntposting if you like your memes. And yeah, that's about it.
And Sean, where can people find you?
Well, you can typically find me obviously on my YouTube channel, The Dominus Ignis, where I mainly do robot stuff like Robot Arena 2, Robot Champions, Robot Rumble 2. I do like robot memes. I'm also trying to do like other games too, but let's be honest, like 90% of my content is just going to be me building a video game robot. I'm also on Twitter, where 90% of what I'm doing on Twitter is just posting how I'm doing on Animal Crossing New Horizons at the moment. And I do have an Instagram, which is not the Dominus Ignis. I don't remember what its exact username is, but I'm probably going to be trying to use that a little bit more often in the future. So yeah, you can find me on those.
Anthony, where can people find you?
You can find me at the 2PMilk8908 YouTube channel, where I make Antweight Anarchy, and you can also find me as a co-host at Vote Saxon 07 YouTube channel.
And finally, Jevon, where can we find you?
You can find me as World of Woodrow on YouTube and on Facebook, where I do the news and other such fun things to do with robots.
And then finally, a massive thank you from us for your hosts, so that, of course, we can start discussing who's going to replace Mitch. Where can we find you?
Well, you can find me on YouTube and Twitch under the Orc Corp, and of course I've got our Insta when. I stole it from Reira this time. She can still probably do it. I stole it from you just like I stole. Yep, I did it just like I stole napalm from you. Sorry. Yeah. Find me on Instagram under Scribblock.
Oliver?
As usual, you can come follow my Facebook page, Team Motte and Bailey. I'm working on a brand new version of my Beetleweight Crossblow. I'm also going to plug the Good Rebottle YouTube channel, because possibly by this point we may be getting somewhere close to the release of the next series of Rebottle Wars, which I am involved with, along with Sean, with Anthony, with Anderson, and it's going to be a good time.
And of course, you can find me as Reira the Bard on Twitter. You can find me as Team Trans-Cendant Robotics on Facebook, although I don't really post much at the moment because quarantine has been hampering my process of building Holy Diver, my new beta weight. But mostly you can find me on Shuntposting, BattleBots group, and anything else, and generally pissing about with the Nelly team, seeing as that's my gang. That's my gang tag. I am #Team Nelly. And of course, we have got a ESC Facebook page, and my Twitter often posts some stuff about ESC when we've got stuff going down. And thank you, everyone, both audience and guests and hosts alike. This has been a fantastic episode. And
You've been listening to Extremely Speedy Cars.
What?
I am very confused.
r/r
Thank you for having me.
Our new host is just going to be a text-to-speech engine.
I thought, okay, robot. It did okay. It flipped Behemoth out straight away in a melee. I don't know, that's my robot voice. Sounds like...
Eubank was robbed.
that's all from us tonight. Good night.
Bye.